Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there and having yourselves an excellent start to your day. Got you an update on what potentially could happen weather-wise for today. Expecting more severe weather, kind of a dynamic day. We could have a lot of snow that falls between now. It's already falling, but between now and the next 24 hours in areas of the northern portion of the country, way up there bordering Canada, northern Minnesota, and areas of North Dakota. We'll talk about that too. But speaking on severe weather, last night's event in Oklahoma will certainly be a case study that a lot of weather enthusiasts, meteorologists go back and look at one day. It was an event that I wouldn't say the writing was on the wall, but the scenario that happened was certainly discussed hours before it actually happened. And, I wish that personally I would have mentioned the possibility a little bit more in yesterday morning's video. We briefly went back over it right when it was developing in yesterday evening's video if you tuned in. But it was kind of something that the chatter on it was building up throughout the day on Twitter, on social media about, hey, if these storms do get going, if they do explode through that cap, that area of stable, warm, dry air aloft, several thousand feet up in the atmosphere, then all bets are off. And that is exactly what happened. And first of all, there was only a small chance of it happening. Second of all, if it was going to happen, it was going to happen later in the afternoon. I'm talking more so early evening time frame, 6, 7 o'clock. It happened about 3 to 4 hours before the time frame that it possibly could happen. So, to me, and this is not a knock on the Storm Prediction Center, they're a lot more intelligent than I am when it comes to weather and severe weather. But it really was, I really was a bit perplexed that they did not bump up the severe weather chances significantly right when they saw the storms explode through the cap in southwest Oklahoma yesterday. But they did not. They stuck with a slight risk. They stuck with a 5% risk of a tornado. And it was a little confusing to me. Maybe it would have made more people a little bit more aware, but regardless, it was a developing thing right then and there. So, but anyways, that was an incredible event. I hope that I haven't heard of any fatalities. We definitely know that there was structures destroyed. I don't know if I know a lot of people who watch my stuff, obviously watch Reed, vice versa. But his stream got quite intense around 8 something last night, 7 something Central Time. Man, there was a tornado right behind him. I mean, I thought he was going to get hit briefly, but that's why he's a professional. That's why we call him the GOAT of all storm chasers. But it was a deviating storm. It was changing directions. It was reforming in certain areas. It was a dangerous, really huge supercell, and it had all the ingredients funneling in from the south. And it was that boom potential that we talked about, and it unfolded. So hopefully you guys are faring well in Oklahoma. It certainly had to be a scary night. And props to all the storm chasers, all the meteorologists for feeding out the information, even though the risk day really wasn't that high. But it certainly developed on the high end. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Hope you guys are staying safe. Had to be a scary night in and around the Oklahoma City, Norman area last night. But you guys, I wouldn't say are used to it. You hardly ever can get used to something like that. But, you've seen it happen many times in central Oklahoma. So with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can do that. I can pray over it, and so others can do so too. So that energy has since fell apart. It kind of moved through northern Arkansas and kind of dwindled away. Cold front's trailing behind it. It's very slow. And what will happen today is, hopefully we got everything going here. Surface, nope, we do not. Let's see. Here we go. We're good to go now. Sorry about all that, guys. Surface slows up here in this region somewhere. We're going to see if morning convection can clear out up here on this mode right here. If it can, you'll watch for some storms right in this region up here today. And we know for almost a fact that storms are going to explode right into this region with a big time hail threat potential right into this region. You could have some, baseball size hail with some of these storms, as an atmosphere is really going to become prime here in the next couple hours. I mean, quickly, very quickly. And the higher the Cape levels, normally the larger the hail, and the more hail is obtained in some of these severe storms. So we're going to watch here the tornado threat today. I would not worry too much, but there is a 2% risk in each one of those circles I just did, and we'll show you that here in a second. But certainly, I don't think we're going to have a day like we did yesterday, where a lot of people would say that, hey, that was a surprise, and it was to a degree, but I don't think we're going to see anything crazy like yesterday. But there will be some big hail out here. So watches and warnings. There's winter storm warnings. We're still dealing with this. It's April 20th. Winter storm warnings up here in northern Minnesota, northeast South Dakota, northeast North Dakota. Winter weather advisories surrounding this. A lot of snow. There's snow falling right now. A lot of snow will continue to fall over the next 24 to 36 hours up here with low pressure. It just kind of meanders around. Big time snow in Canada. And maybe one of these days, I've had a lot of people, a lot of Canadians ask me, hey, Mitch, can you talk a little bit more about Canada? I would love to. You guys are so nice. You're polite. Haven't had one rude person from Canada say anything. But maybe in the future, I can expand things when I can do this full time, maybe in a couple years, God willing. But red flag warnings. This is a story that isn't being talked about much, but it should. Very dry conditions, and not just dry, but it's dry, it's warm, it's windy. So please be aware. Do not throw any cigarette butts out your window. Don't light any fires. Typically, you see this in this region, which you do have today, and you've had over the last several days. But you don't see this as much in areas of the Ohio Valley, the Mid-South, but certainly. Excuse me. Here it is. Sorry, clearing my throat there. But Storm Prediction Center today, the latest of what we got. And remember, a lot of times this will update to an upgrade a couple hours after I drop the video. If it does, they'll upgrade this to an enhanced risk down here in Texas for a hail-driven risk. But right now, slight risk, large chunk of central and all of eastern Texas. All of western Louisiana goes right through the heart of Arkansas, through southeast Missouri, through a very small section of southwest Illinois. Tornado threat, it's a bimodal 2% risk, one up here, okay, and then one down here. Wind threat, 15% risk of winds pushing 50 knots or higher, 55 to 60 miles per hour in this yellow region. Hail threats, 15% risk of hail pushing 1 inch in diameter or larger. But you got the hatched risk down here, which I think will be the bigger storyline today. Significant hail with a big time area of Cape that will really get going. It's already kind of there this morning, but really will explode over the next few hours. We'll talk about that here in a second. So, the hatch region, that's at least a 10% risk of hail pushing 2 inch in diameter or larger. So big time hail in central and east central Texas today. Something that probably needs to be discussed a little bit more is the flooding threat today. There's a slight risk of flash flood guidance being met in this yellow area. That's at least a 15% chance. So please be aware this cold front is trailing very slowly, which means storms are just going to refire. They might be somewhat outflow boundary driven, meaning storm will explode, pop off an outflow boundary, which if you don't know what that is, that's rain-cooled air. This rain-cooled air, when it clashes against this warm air, just the differences between air temperatures, it reinitiates more storms. We'll see if that is the case today. We'll certainly watch, and a lot of times this causes storms to refire over the same areas. But let's talk about the southeast first, and for you folks in the south central U.S., including Texas, Arkansas, all the way up through portions of the Midwest, we'll talk about your severe weather threat. But the southeast today, in general, will be pretty quiet. An isolated storm or two could fire up in southern Florida near Miami. You guys could certainly see some storm action. In the far southern peninsula of Florida could definitely get some storm action a little bit later this afternoon. Nothing too crazy. I say nothing too crazy, but, compared to some of what these storms have been doing down there a few days ago, you can't put your guard down. But this evening, you'll have these storms working through Arkansas, the Boot Heel of Missouri. It just keeps storming in these areas. It just keeps on storming. I'm not. It's not a jealous thing, but I know here in the Carolinas, and I've mentioned it a few times, there's been nothing for us local Carolina and Georgia people, Virginia, for us to really chase. It's kind of that time of the year where personally I've exhausted all my time I want to utilize for spring to chase back in February and March and early April. And I'm sticking to local chases here in the Carolinas between now and hurricane season because I want to save time for hurricane season to chase. But it's kind of hard to drive hundreds and hundreds of miles to Arkansas, Missouri. I just don't do it full time. So, I want to be out there chasing, but because that's my real passion when it comes to weather. But, it's just not easy. I don't like leaving my family either. Props to storm chasers who have a family and do it. I can't leave my family. I don't like leaving them more than a day or two. So it's hard, but, the leftover energy from what fires up this afternoon, this evening in Texas I think will develop into a nasty line of storms in Louisiana and move through in the wee hours of the morning, right through almost the entire state of Louisiana. And you're waking up tomorrow morning to some very messy conditions in the coastal regions of Louisiana, maybe to Baton Rouge. This will be knocking on your door, New Orleans. More of a broken up line of storms further north into Mississippi, western Tennessee. We'll rediscuss this tonight for sure. But the Northeast, some showers possible this morning in western sections of New York State. But most of the day will be calm. Another warm day. Some showers will try to drift into far northern Vermont and New Hampshire and New York State. Maybe some snow. Later tonight, it's possible in western Maine. Maybe a little streamer of snow might make its way through, but not super active. Not very active at all. The south central U.S., this will be where all the active weather is. Today, not much goes on throughout the morning, and then I would say around lunchtime. Storms already are getting going in eastern Texas right down here. We're going to zone into this too. Even in southeast Oklahoma, boom, storms get going right here. Flooding threats, large hail threat, frequent lightning. If any kind of individual supercells can get going, damaging winds will be a big threat, and large hail will be a big threat. Can't rule out an isolated tornado. That's why you got the 2% risk. Especially watch out for any of these individual storms that get going right in the heart of Texas. Maybe a little bit more of a cap out here, but we'll see what these storms and how they move kind of upscale. I think they will develop more so into a line of storms as we work our way into the late evening and then overnight hours, and there's that look right here. These storms could sweep through Houston in the middle of the night tonight and then through western Louisiana. A little bit closer look at the explosive nature of these storms. And, this is around noon right here. Already some scattered convection popping up, and then bang, this is around 2 p.m. You see these kind of isolated, somewhat semi-discrete supercells right here in eastern Texas. Not far eastern Texas. I would consider this area like east central Texas. If you live in this area right into here, large hail, pretty early in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, these storms will explode, eat up all that fuel in the atmosphere, that cape we talk about, and they'll try to congeal together. And this is when a flooding threat could really get going. We got to watch out for that. A lot of rain can fall in these areas. And then watch out for these lone supercells out here. These could be very photogenic around 6, 7 p.m. Large hail and an isolated tornado threat right here in the heart of Texas. So please watch out if you're right in central Texas. A couple lone, kind of discrete supercells could get going. And then these storms really kind of mash together and sweep through southeast Texas. And, I know I didn't mention my folks in Arkansas much, but, same kind of deal up here. I would say there's going to be some hailstorms in Arkansas too. I'd say that these storms start as early afternoon, sweep through the northwest portion of the state, work their way through the central part of the state very slowly. That's why you got a flooding risk throughout this entire area. And, some of these storms could just re-go over some of the same areas. A very stormy evening in Arkansas, almost the entire state of Arkansas. Very, very stormy weather. And, you can look at the blend of all models here, and we'll look at how much rain can fall between now and let's take it all the way between now and Friday evening. 2 to 3 inches of rain could fall. You go back down here. Let's just take it to the south central U.S. A lot of rain. on this big old complex of storms that could go through overnight in these areas in southeast Texas and southern sections of Louisiana. A few inches of rain. So a lot of rain's going to fall. It's something that's not going to be talked about as much. But keep that in mind. And, I mentioned this in last night's video. We'll start this off around, 7, 8 a.m. this morning. Cape already building just to the right of the boundary, which is the cold front. And we keep this in motion if we can get it in motion. Here we go. We're good now. Take it all the way to about, at this point, we're about mid to late morning. You already got Cape values, ML Cape, mixed layer Cape, building, which is the best thing to look at, in my opinion. Building to almost 2,500 joules per kilogram. Bang, almost 3,000 joules per kilogram. You do have 3,000 joules per kilogram that will build in this region. It's starting. This is basically the fuel to the atmosphere, right? That gasoline to the atmosphere building into this region, right? And then boom, somebody lights a match, and you see these little splotches right here, or these are basically where storms explode in this field of energy, field of Cape. As soon as they explode, okay, you got 3,000 joules per kilogram. As soon as they explode, they eat up all that Cape. So it's like you got all this gasoline out here, right? And then you light a match and throw it into the gasoline, and then it eats up all the gas. It ignites all of it, and yum, gone. Okay, and that's how it happens. It's pretty wild. The atmosphere is very relatable to other things, if that makes any sense. But these storms will really get going, and I think this is why you got the biggest health threat down here, is because you have a lot of convective energy right down here in all layers of the atmosphere. Here comes that low pressure developing. Well, it's already developed, but it's scooting across Iowa, bringing a lot of heavy rain this morning. Up here to the north, we'll talk about the snow first. This low pressure really slows down, so it just brings for repetitive rounds of snow. There might be a lull somewhat in northern Minnesota, but then it'll develop again. I think up here in the UP of Michigan, you could get a rumble of thunder. It'll be an interesting day in the UP of Michigan. My guy Steven, you'll have to tell me what it does up here. Will you get a mix of rain and snow, maybe some sleet? But I think you could potentially, I would say, around 9 to 10, 11 a.m. this morning, get kind of a line of something that comes through. Could match with a little bit of cold air. But I would bet that it's probably just going to be rain, but it could be a mixture of wintry precipitation. But as we're getting into later this morning, a solid shield of heavy snow really gets going in northern Minnesota, and then northeast North Dakota, and then an all-out snowstorm begins to enter Canada to the north of the U.S. But a lot of snow. This is this evening, still falling, still twisting around. To see the low pressure just kind of bogging down in northeast Minnesota off the coast of Lake Superior. This is just bringing snow all night, even into our Friday, with back-end snow showers making it as far south as Iowa. Okay, we're almost in May now. Snow between now and Saturday. Well, it takes it all the way out to about Saturday late afternoon, evening. Over a foot of snow, of additional snow is possible. It'll really crank up this afternoon. International Falls, another late season winter storm for you guys. Just seems like the winter just keeps on going out here. But it's not totally unusual, but this is late April, so this is pretty wild. But a lot of snow up here. A lot of snow could fall, a lot of heavy, wet snow. It won't last long. It'll melt very quickly. But so I want to mention this, Missouri, Illinois, southern Wisconsin, a very conditional severe weather threat today, meaning if the atmosphere recovers from all this morning rain, cloudiness, in like northern Illinois, areas of eastern Iowa, and even Missouri and southern Wisconsin, then you could get a scenario where once this convection goes, here comes more convection that pops off right into here. All hazards are possible. I'm not talking about, an EF4 tornado, but there is a pretty decent environment up here for anything, really. It's just how much does the atmosphere recover, and does these storms get going in time today? So this is around 2-3 p.m. this afternoon. Some storms are flying through Missouri, Illinois. These storms, I think, will be spinning. It's just, do they latch? Do they latch to the surface? And let's hope they do not. But I would watch out St. Louis points north. Peoria, all the way to Rockford, all the way to what is it, Janesville, Wisconsin. Please watch out in this little region right in here. These storms this afternoon, and it's going to be hard to figure out exactly where they'll be, but I know they'll sweep throughout the afternoon hours. And by the time you get into this evening, they will be weakening, I think. I'm pretty confident they will be, but watch out in this area today. This little area right, let's see if we can get this pulled up, right into here. Watch out all the way into southern Wisconsin. I would watch these storms right here, even these storms down here, but really watch out here where the kinematics are really high end, and you're probably going to have some spinning up drafts in this region. So temperatures, one of the warmest days of the year for a lot of people. It's wild. Here in Columbia, we have not hit 90 degrees yet. A lot of people have beat us to the punch at 90 degrees. But it's going to be very warm. There was a lot of people who hit that 90-degree mark yesterday. And I think some areas, certainly in Virginia, will hit it. A lot of people will hit it. I know you just see 80s on this screen, but the HRRR model sometimes isn't accurate on a lot of things, just like any other model isn't. But it's going to be quite warm. I mean, 80s all the way to central Michigan, all the way to the Gulf Coast, all the way to the eastern U.S. The Northeast, still kind of chilly out here, unfortunately, for any warm weather fans. But very warm day today. Very warm day today for sure. Severe weather has actually dropped for tomorrow. Just a marginal risk of severe storms now for the entire Texas coastline through most of Louisiana and all of the southern half of Mississippi. Very small section of southwest Mississippi, southwest Alabama. But hey, you got a slight risk of severe storms now up for the eastern Carolinas, far eastern Carolinas, very small section of the coastal region of Georgia. Right now, I think that the models that they're talking about the potential for a line of storms, not really much of a tornado threat, but you could have a damaging wind threat that could develop in the afternoon hours Saturday and sweep through and affect areas of the coastal regions of the Carolinas. This is a little bit closer. I would chase it. But it's hard to just, I got a soccer game about midday, early afternoon Saturday, and it's hard to really jump on the interstate and drive all the way to basically the coastal regions of North Carolina just to chase down a fleeting line of storms. So just has not been super active here in the Carolinas as far as eventful weather. And I know people are just like, Mitchell, why are you wanting crazy weather? Well, guys, I'm a passionate weather guy at heart, and I'm always going to keep it real with you guys. And it would be cool to just have some spring thunderstorms, even just to watch off your front porch, but there's just been nothing. It just really has not been much of anything. So it is what it is. I would like to give you guys a break here in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois. We'll take some of the crazy weather for you guys. Let's spread it out, and we need to stop hitting the same areas over and over again. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Stay safe out there. Protect your cars, your roofs, whatever it may be from these hailstorms. Stay away from these hailstorms. They can be damaging also. God bless all y'all. Stay safe, and I'll be with you this evening.